Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast is now called Birth Agni Podcast.
You present your birth plan to your doctor excitedly, and the doctor says, "What is a birth plan?" I do not know. I do not know what it means, and we do not do birth plans. Hi, my name is Divya. I'm here again, sitting right across you, discussing with you another pregnancy topic. And this is my story.
You're listening to Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast, bite-sized pregnancy series, where we discuss the major parts of pregnancy so that you are able to make informed decisions throughout it.
I went to my doctor, who strictly dismissed my approach of making a birth plan. I read about birth plans very enthusiastically from the book What to Expect When You Are Expecting, the Bible of Pregnancy. And then, after being dismissed, I never made a birth plan. Why? We will come to that. But first, let us discuss what is a birth plan. In this episode, we are going to talk about what is a birth plan and what does it mean for you in the Indian urban birth culture perspective. A birth plan really is your preference about how you wish your labor and the time immediately after delivery to progress. Like, for example, you want to buy a lehenga for your shadi and you write down on a paper, because probably at that point in time, hypothetically, you will not be able to tell people what really do you want, because you are in some kind of a process. So you write down, I want it in orange color. If orange color is not available, maybe off-white would do. All the options that you're okay with, you choose to write that down there. What kind of a birth do you prefer? What are the labor management techniques you prefer? Do you want an epidural or not? What do you want the course of action to be if things go unplanned? And that is the most crucial part. You really note down what concerns you the most. And birth plan is actually a medium of communication and nothing more than that. So when you are laboring and you are not in the phase of listening to choices and understanding what is going on, which in most Indian hospitals would not happen, you will not be explained why a procedure is going to take place. And that is why I always say your information is important. So when you are in labor and you may not be in the phase of listening to choices and understanding what is going on, then the hospital staff and the doctor is aware of your preferences and can take that into acknowledgement when deciding on your care. That is the entire reason why birth plans exist. Now, if you are making your birth plan, like Rosemary Counter, who wrote in the New York Times about having heard stories of birth some 40 years back and then carving out her beautiful story of birth and how it will unfold and how things would happen in a few hours without really mentioning any clear guidelines, it is, like she says in the article, not going to serve you. A birth plan needs to be precise, concise, clear, easy to read. Now, I just said that a birth plan in the Indian hospital setup may not serve you because they may not explain to you why what is happening. More so, you must have heard that you need to provide your birth plan to your doctor. And that is a more Western approach in India. And most doctors in India would not encourage a birth plan. They might not even give you the information you need to decide on how to progress during your labor. And probably if you have not heard the entire series, you would think, will I be able to decide things in my labor and birth? Am I supposed to? You should definitely check out the first few episodes of this pregnancy series. What is informed decision making is one of them. Now you're already thinking, Divya, Should I really make that birth plan? Wouldn't be it a futile exercise in India? I hear you. Yes, I do. If you choose your doctor and your care center to be a midwifery center or a center that follows the physiological method of natural birth, and what is a natural birth is another episode that I did. You should definitely check that out if you want to understand what do I mean when I say natural birth. It doesn't have to do with a vaginal or a cesarean birth. When I say natural birth, it is a physiological birth. So if you want to understand what is that, check out the episode, What is a Natural Birth? So if you choose your doctor and your care center to be a midwifery center or the one that functions in a more natural physiological way, then most likely a birth plan would be advised. You will be worked with on a birth plan and it will be welcomed. Also, just to clear, if you are receiving personalized care already, you may not need a birth plan. Now, birth plans came into existence because in the hospitals, with varying shifts, mothers were not able to get individualized care. So the doctor did not know what the mother wanted, what kind of a perception she had, whether she was ready to bear the pain, whether she was happy to go one way. In that kind of a circumstance, the decisions are usually not in accordance with what the mother wants, and there are options out there that you can explore. So those options are left unexplored. And that is when a birth becomes a negative experience and not so much a positive experience, when you and your doctor are not on the same page. So birth plans A came into existence to provide individualized care in the hospitals when birth moved to hospitals. Second, it is a way of communication. It is there to get you some sort of an individualized care. Now, like I said, a lot of doctors in India would not join in your will for a birth plan, because to them it would feel that they are giving the authority to you. And to be honest, birth plans in India is really a new phenomena for most of the hospitals. But like I said, you should go through the episode, What is Informed Decision Making? According to Indian Charter of Patients' Rights, you have the right to either go with a procedure or say no to it. But you will only be able to do that if you know why what is being done to you is being done to you at this point in time. What are the benefits of that procedure? Why is it necessary to do it right now? What are the risks or side effects involved? And according to Indian Charter of Patients' Rights, all of that information should be given to you whenever you undergo a procedure. Because when you say yes to a procedure, or when you do not say no to a procedure, you are giving your consent to go ahead with a procedure, and a hospital or a doctor would not move ahead with a procedure unless and until you say yes to it. And if you did not know you needed to know something to say yes or no to it, you would say yes without even knowing anything. You give the entire authority to the hospital, which is why a birth plan is important. It gives you some sort of power because it gives you the chance to participate in your own birth. So if the doctor does not encourage you, chances are that the doctor is not going to explain to you what happens in labor and birth, what will lead to what kind of a procedure is used in certain kind of circumstances. And if you're not even taking the birth classes, it may be very difficult for you to make a birth plan. And like I did, I never made a birth plan because I did not know what to write in there. What are my options? I did not know anything about labor and birth when I birthed. And then why is information important to make a birth plan? For example, I ask you to make a plan about choosing a vanilla or a strawberry ice cream. Now, there are different ways you're going to choose that, right? If you've already experienced, having the ice cream, you're going to choose the ice cream based on your experience, how it felt when you had it, how it tasted. And then if you already know what it is made up of, what are the ingredients, what are its effects on the body, you may take that into consideration. So if you have tasted it before and you know the information, you may combine both of that and then kind of decide based on the effect and how it tastes. And if you've never ever had a vanilla or a strawberry ice cream, you may just decide based on the ingredients, the effects of having that ice cream, how it is made. You may consider taking a decision based on that. In birth, when you have not experienced it in the most physiological way, information and knowledge becomes important here for you to be able to decide what to do when you have two procedures in front of you. What parameters should be taken into consideration before you say yes to a procedure, even if it means giving you pains to accelerate your birth. And which is why it also becomes of immense importance if your doctor does not confide with you in making a birth plan and is not willing to give you any information about labor and birth. That could be a sign that this may not be the most physiological birth that you have thought of. And maybe this may not go according to how you wish it would go. Anyway, a birth is unplanned. A birth is the most unexpected thing that can happen. That doesn't mean it has to be a negative experience. That doesn't mean it has to be. The thing is, you cannot control birth. That is true. But to be able to know how things happen during birth and to have some kind of an autonomy and to have some kind of a participation into your birth, to be able to say, yes, I understand that my pains need to be accelerated, and if you accelerate my pain, I may undergo a cesarean. I may say no if everything is going fine. In that kind of a circumstance, to be able to know what leads to what becomes important to you, because you know, even if things do not go the way you imagined, you know why what happened. And that is important to have a more positive experience. So we do not want to have the kind of birth experience we wish and imagine. We want to have a more positive, involved, participated birth experience. And that is why you need a birth plan. So if a doctor is not by your side, is not willing to give you any information about birth, you have not had childbirth classes, it may be time to reconsider. Now, how you may reconsider is, you may change your doctor. You may try and convince, if you think everything else about the doctor is great, and you have really checked everything about the doctor in the hospital and you want to go with the particular doctor, you actually try and talk to the doctor and ask if there is a way we could go with the birth plan. Alternatively, you can take childbirth classes and your mentor will give you the right information to be able to make that birth plan, even if the doctor does not work with you on it. So that is another way you can go about it. The third way is, if the doctor in India does not work with you on a birth plan, you can still use the birth plan made with the help of childbirth classes, with the help of your mentor, and use your husband, your birth partner, your sister, whoever is helping you in your labor, to be able to communicate on your behalf what you would have decided during different stages of labor when you are in that phase. Since it is a medium of communication, since it is just to have a more positive birth experience, to have some kind of a participation in your birth, to involve your partner, your husband, your sister, or whoever is helping you in that process of communicating, in that process of having that knowledge in the first place with you through childbirth classes, it is going to help you navigate most of the decisions with that help. So if the doctor does not come to terms with the birth plan, somebody in your family who is going to be with you should be able to take those childbirth classes, should know what leads to what, should sit with you on your fears, apprehensions, what you really want, whether you would have preferred an epidural or not, and highlight all those things in your birth plan and be by your side. Even if you write in your birth plan, if things go downside, I need to talk. Whichever phase of the labor I am in, I wish to be spoken to. Then your husband or your partner or your sister, whoever is assisting you in birth, should be able to sit with you in the way you want, talk it out, and then further discuss it with your doctor. Having said that, it is an idealistic way of looking at birth. Birth is uncertain. It may still not go the way you imagine, but having gone prepared, you take complete participation in your birth and you try and make it more and more a positive experience. When you go with nature, when you know what you want, having a more positive birth experience is possible, and it's not a rarity like it has become in these times. It is not really a rarity. If all the powers come together and help you in making that a positive experience, it is possible. And birth plan is one of the ways we want to make that happen. So that was all about birth plans, why they are important, how to make them. What does it mean in the Indian hospital setup? With that, I would take your leave. I know you may not be able to imagine, if you are a first-time mother, what I'm trying to say. But if you are in safe hands, if you are with the people you trust, you are most definitely going to have a very, very positive birth experience. Every experience in life is drawn from a perspective. If your thought processes are taken into consideration, you are going to be happy about how birth took place. And that is what we all want. Remember, you got the power. Stay tuned.